Brandon Wolford, and today I'm going to be talking about stopping the draining of the Florida Everglades and kind of the impacts it has on the area. Just for some background, I've been raised in Central Florida my whole life. I visited the Everglades numerous times with both friends, family, and by myself. I don't know anyone that doesn't enjoy it. It's a wonderful scene of just natural diversity. I'm going to be discussing the effects of the drainage on the Everglades and how negative it is for the environment for both humans and animals. And I'm going to be discussing some ways that even you and me can help at home stop this. The Everglades are home to nearly 1,000 wildlife native species as of right now, as of today. And the more and more drainage that is occurring, it's pushing more and more wildlife to extinction, and the diversity of the Everglades it falls by the day, really. In the early 1900s, there were 2 hurricanes that came through Florida, and they killed thousands of people. So the government figured ways to stop all this flooding from the hurricanes is to build canals and stop the leakage of water out of major lakes in Florida. So like Lake Okeechobee, which if you're from the area, I'm sure you're familiar with, it's a massive lake, and in the late rainy season, it leaks water south into Florida. And this typically what it used to also always push more water into the Everglades, which was a common occurrence every year. It pushed it from the lakes into the Everglades and into the Florida Bay and out to the sea. As of the last 100 years, because of human intervention and canals being built, this has either stopped in some areas or become very dim, and it's just completely changed the route of how the Everglades have been for the last however many years without human impact. According to the South Florida Water Management District, because of efforts to drain the marshland for agriculture, development, and flood control, the Everglades is today half the size that it used to be. So again, and it's only been about 100 years of this nonsense happening in South Florida, of just ruining our environment. It has been cut in half by half. It's been cut in half. This is one of, if not the most diverse natural wildlife areas in the world, and for it to be a national park titled by the government, it's not treated that way. It's treated like nothing. It's treated like more land that needs to be built on in Florida. And Florida residents, a lot of us feel the exact same way. The Property and Environment Research Center says that the Everglades today receive less than 1/3 of its historic water flow. The water is contaminated by fertilizer and other runoff, and the wildlife-rich wetlands are half the size they were when the federal government started draining projects in the 1920s. Again, this just shows the Everglades are being demolished by our government for selfish reasons to build more and more, in most cases housing and less entertainment. There's nothing really appealing to anyone. It's just useless waste of our environment. This is something that can't exactly be rebuilt. Once these things are extinct, they're gone from us, right? And it's extremely selfish. There are effects on plants and animals from invasive species that come in. So again, the flow of water has changed. It's less and it's different. So this amounts for more buildup of certain species in the Everglades that typically would have been pushed out or kind of just grown out. But there's also new species that have come in, invasive species, that when they come in, they are dominating the food chain, whether plants or animals. In the plant's case, it's losing nutrients, they're being grown out, beat out, and there's just nothing you can do about it. In the animal's case, there are things such as, I'm sure you've heard the Burmese python is in Florida. It's a very bad invasive animal, and there's thousands of them. They're massive, scary snakes that eat everything, and nothing eats them except for, I guess, us that can kill them, right? And it's just one example, but it's horrible. There's thousands of things like this of non-native species just dominating the area. Here's some ways we can help ourselves. First is by donating. You can look online. I'm sure there's things like Facebook, or here I have listed a GoFundMe. This one is by Love the Everglades. This is just a way to further the point, push the point out, get more people involved in the cause and understand of it. If you live in the Central or South Florida area and you plant things like in the actual soil, it's very important to be mindful of how much water you're using. So if you plant crops, you need to be sure of how much water is being used. Because if the government sees a lot more water being used than it realistically needs to be, they'll just drain more water and build more things like retention ponds in neighborhoods, which it does nothing good for us. Another way is to vote. You can vote in things like local elections, or also just signing petitions online, which I've acquired one here in my presentation on change.org. You can go look right now. I'm sure there's a multitude of different petitions that are able to be signed and help to push the cause out even more. Again, I'm Brandon Wolford, and this is why I think we should stop draining the Everglades.